Right.
Hello there, everybody, and welcome to the entertainment headquarters, and welcome to my segment, Kaiju Connections, where we talk all thing kaiju and giant monster of cinema and television. And joining me today on this very special episode of Kaiju Connection is a host of amazing kaiju fans and content creators, but most importantly, friends. So here we have the man who is called the Professor, Daniel Miller of Dan Filament.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes. Then we have Mr. Anthony Jordan of Anthony Jordan's Movies and Gaming. And down below, Mr. Jedi Granville, aka Walter Ross. And as he always says, keep the kaiju love alive. And finally, the leader, the creator of the Sci-Fi Society, Mr. Sci-Fi Sentry himself.
Okay. How's it going?
Right. This one has been something I've wanted to do for a while because this, believe it or not, is one of my childhood favourites. And this is something that has a lot of sentimental value to me. And we're talking about Gappa.
Gappa!
Yeah. And this is the Japanese poster. And this came out in 1967, and I've got a story to start off with. So many, many moons ago, you all know how I was introduced to Godzilla on that stormy October night. But this story is one day I was up at my grandparents, and it was a Sunday afternoon.
This is a reminder. Take my gabapentin pill. Just let me know
Sorry,
if this
Kevin.
is done.
Alexa, I'm done.
Alexa, we're talking about Gappa. Fuck off.
Yeah. Sorry, man. Sorry. Fuck.
Anyway,
Okay.
thank you, Alexis, or Alexa, what the fuck you called. Carrying on. So, what this day I was up at my grandparents, and my granddad had been to a second-hand shop or a charity shop, and he had a bag on the side of his chair near the kitchen table. So I go to the bag and I was rummaging through his bag, and he had bought some VHSs. None of them stood out except one, and it was the original Gappa on VHS, the British Gappa VHS. And I watched it at my grandparents for the first time that day. I loved it that much that he gave us the VHS and I kept it. And I had it for a very long time, but unfortunately it got damaged and I no longer have it. But I did have the original British Gappa VHS release, and it was the first ever kaiju movie that I actually physically owned. It's just a shame, obviously, that it got damaged and I no longer have it, but I do have it on Blu-ray because I did buy the American release and got it shipped it over, imported over. But Gappa for me, I had seen Gappa before I seen Gorgo. But then soon as I seen Gorgo, I fell in love with Gorgo. One, because it's an amazing movie. Two, because it came before Gappa and I could see the references and I could see the similarities straight away. So, well, before we get into it, as I always ask, I'll ask us all, when was the first time you guys got to see Gappa? We'll start from the top, Mr. Daniel Miller.
I saw Gappa, albeit very disjointedly, at my first G-Fest of all places. So I was in the hotel room, and I was on the G-Fest dedicated channel, and I caught the opening of Gappa. There was the Monsters from Another Planet cut version, and I was like, oh, okay, we start out at sea, very much like the original Godzilla, but something's different here. But then after that, we had to leave the room because the convention was starting and we wanted to get in on things. I came back to the room a while later and I managed to catch two scenes. One scene was when the two characters going into the cave before they discover Kappa's egg, and the other was the closing before the end credits.
Mm-hmm.
I managed to rewatch it again in full earlier this week, and I'm not quite sure what to make of it because, again, it was the same dub, the same Monsters from Another Planet version. And I'm thinking there are some things that are good, but there are some things that are left to be desired. But that could be just because this is a dub, and it does feel like that there are some places that the film feels a bit disjointed, or it feels like there are some things cut from the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Mr. Anthony Jordan.
Well, last week I watched it on Tubi and I watched the dub version, and was that picture quality terrible?
Yes.
Like the similar thoughts of Daniel, where it's like I won't say it's bad, but I don't know quite what to make of it myself. And I noticed that with the editing, where it does feel like scenes were cut out and it affects the pacing, but it was even if it's just the basic structure of Gorgo, it was still done interestingly enough. And Gappa is is an interesting kaiju in and of themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's very, very true. I've actually come up with my own theory, even though they're not connected to Toho. The way the design of Gappa is, I always said in my imagination that an alien race came down and abducted the baby Gappa, and then many years later it returned to Earth as Gigan. because they're very, very similar. They're both like bird type kaiju, and that's just my mind playing stupid, just coming up with, me imagination was going crazy. But the fact that they're both bird like kaiju, in my mind, I always thought, well, what happened if Gigan turned out to be, you know, you know, mutilated and recreated Gappa?
That's a theory I can actually buy into.
Mhm. Yeah. So anyway, back to what we're saying, Mr. Walter Ross. When's the first time you've seen Gappa?
Well, honestly, before I actually saw it, I actually saw this movie and things that were called for some of y'all were some when y'all were little kids or babies, whereas books, believe it or not.
Mhm.
I actually saw the printing of it in book form of just the poster and the little, feels from the film. I wouldn't officially see the film itself until like say I wouldn't think I see it until like 20 to the 2000s, something like that.
Mhm.
Um, it was just like I say, because like I say, I saw the trailer for it, but like I say, I wouldn't see the full film until like 2000. Like you, Kevin, I haven't seen it in a long time, but haven't seen it again recently. I was like, there's some things I really miss, and see, I have it on Blu-ray now, so
Mhm.
I have to worry about trying to rent it or see it in very bad form. But what I can say is that I can say now that I guess I didn't see it then, and I see it now. Is that there are some parts in this film that are got to me. They actually got me emotional. Maybe because I'm older now,
Mhm.
they just kind of hit me kind of home, like and I'm just like, oh, this is kind of why am I feeling some kind of feels right now for this, So
Mhm.
it's like I say, it's like I say, it's got its silliness. It's supposed to be that because it's supposed to be more for kids and everything, but I feel that it has something about it that's very, childhoodish, but it's got that adult feel to it too, because it brings out a lot of political things in there, obviously. But yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, it's like I say, it's been a while since I've seen it, but seeing it recently, it reawakened some things in me that I didn't know was there.
Yeah. So, Mr. Sci-Fi Century.
I saw Daikyojo Gappa, aka Gappa, the Triphibian monster, aka monster from a prehistoric planet. I saw it back in the day. I think it was on the USA Network, and I didn't see all of it, but it was towards the end, and it was very vague because I was probably like 10 or 11. But I did end up buying it, getting it on a special 13 hours of giant monsters EVD catalog, and this one comes with a bunch of movies. It comes with it has Gamera. It's got Gamera versus Gauss, Yongari, and then it has the monster from Prehistoric Planet, which is Gappa. And yeah, the quality on this one is, oh my god. Anthony called it out. This one is horrible, but
Mm.
then I ended up buying this one about a year, 2 or 3 years ago, and it's much better. But yeah, it's I enjoy it because I mean, any real kaiju fans like we are, man, we soak it all up.
Mhm.
Yeah, it wasn't Toho based, and you could tell just by the picture quality that it wasn't that it was lower budget. But I thought that Gappa was a great kaiju film in itself, and for any kaiju lovers, especially the Showa era
Mhm.
1960s film, it was great. And yeah, I finally saw it again when I got it. I think I bought this special edition back in 2010, and yeah, it's a good film, man. It's like I said, it's not on par with Godzilla, but in itself, it's a great film.
Mm. So, can I ask the special edition you've got? Is that in English dub or is it subtitled?
I think they're all both. I haven't checked it out, but it does say um, it came out in 2005. So damn, it's pretty old. And then I think it does say subtitles. So yeah, I think they're all just dubs.
Oh, cool. Right.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So let's talk a little bit about the movie. So Gappa is a 1967 Japanese kaiju film directed by, I'm going to try this name, but if I butcher it, I do apologize. Harayazu Noguchi. The film is about a group of Japanese reporters who discover an infant monster called a Gappa on Obeliski Island. And it's very much connected, or it has a similar feel in plot, virtually to the other 1961 British film Gorgo. There is it basically in the what I'm reading here on Wikipedia. It basically says the full plot. But I don't want to talk about the full plot right away because that's what we had to talk about. So, who would like to start with the plot of Gappa? We'll start with Mr. Walter Ross because I know you know this film very well.
Okay, I was gonna say I was kind of saying I hope you do start with me, but I mean if you started with the professor, that's okay too. No, this film starts surprisingly in the ocean on a ship with some researchers who are going to the island for looking for exotic, but not exotic birds, but just exotic animals to say the least. And this backer, this magazine company, Playmate Incorporated, they're back at this little hiatus to bring him back because all he's trying to do is exploit, the creatures that he finds or that his expedition finds on an island in the Pacific, and bring them back so he can have this park where it's like all these things are making money. That's all it's all about. It's all about financing off of somebody else's welfare, basically. So they pretty much, sell to this island, but then he get one of the persons on the boat, I don't know his name, the one's fishing and everything, he gets a note saying something about, they're gonna have to cancel it or something along the lines. But then they notice they're closer to a island that where the volcano is erupting, So it's like, well, let's go to this. Let's go to this, and hopefully, this brings us some fortune,
And he has the two main leads in the movie.
Yeah.
There you go. So you've got. Do you want to pronounce the names, Walter, before I butcher them?
Well, I can. You know what? I'm just going to say the reporter and the not the scientist, but the magazine guy, because I'm not going to try to butcher their name. I'm not even going to try to name their characters' names because I won't do well. But I know the boy. His name is Saki, if I'm not mistaken. He's in there. He's a very valuable character.
Yes.
Well, these two are, like I say, the woman, she's a reporter. She's a photographer. She's just trying to get a good group. Yeah.
So she's the reporter, Itoko.
Yeah, Itoko. Yeah, Itoko Koyanagi. Itoko Koyanagi and Hiroshi
Kurosaki.
Kurosaki. Yeah, Kurosaki. Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, and then you have, like you say, the young child who's called, is it Mashida?
Saki.
Character.
Yeah, the character. Yeah, the character is Mashida. Is that the name of the young boy?
Yeah.
So the young boy is called Mashida, and he's one of the natives on the island. And as you mentioned, you have some corrupt individual who is there to just basically exploit the island, who is this gentleman.
Yeah.
Who is,
I forget his name, but he's the big dog, big wig, in presenting this, financing this whole thing, just so he can make more money through all this, through the park.
Mr. Funazu. That's his name, Mr. Funazu.
Yeah, Mr. Funazi. Yes. It's Mr. Funari, the magazine owner. So yes, as the plot progresses, obviously they go onto the island and they start exploring when they come across the natives. And the volcano's going off and they're like all like in a panic. And this is I believe he is the people's elder.
Yep.
And he mentions that they, since they're there, it's like, well, Gappa's not angry anymore. The earthquakes won't be happening anymore. But it's as we find out that stuff is going to start up again, and because the paperman and the reporter, well, actually takes he takes her and the boy to go lead them to where where they saw the stone statue that had collapsed.
Yes.
Go to where it's at so they can just find something to say bring back to Japan.
Yes, because I believe if my memory serves me right, they basically, because of the earthquakes and the volcanoes, and they settle down, and then they believe that the threat, and they've pleased Gappa, and then suddenly there's an earthquake after they're like talking about taking things off the island, which the natives disagree with. Then there's an earthquake, which the statue collapses and it creates an opening in the wall. And obviously the opening in the wall leads to a giant undiscovered cave with like a water area, like an undiscovered water, like pond or lake at the bottom of it, where they discover an egg.
Very odd-shaped egg too, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So Daniel Miller, do you want to take off from when the egg is discovered?
Very well. So the two characters, they discover an egg. One of the other members catches up with them, followed by more of the expedition. Another earthquake, which, if I remember correctly, is triggered by the volcano, occurs. The egg is broken in pieces, and we see something escape the egg. So do the characters. They follow it deep. They follow a trail of yolk from the egg deeper into
Which
the
I
cave.
love, mind. I love that scene because
Yeah.
it felt very realistic of what would really happen if a chick or any bird would leave the nest and came out of its egg. I love that scene because it felt very realistic of what would really happen with a bird or any kind of animal that hatches from an egg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, they follow the yolk trail deeper into the cave and they find a baby Gappa. And they're like, wow, this is exactly what we need.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, actually seeing it in such clear quality, wow. I appreciate it, but at the same time I see a bit
Orville
more.
the duck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that
Is it-
from the Blu-ray? Is that from the Blu-ray or from the Tubi? From the two,
It's-
is that the because the quality is much better, man, than the one that I have. Is that the one that
No.
came out in Tubi?
No, this is just an image I got off Google while researching the film.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of amazing clear images on Google if you look.
Mm.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, IMDb as well.
you might not know the reference, but I'm sure Daniel Miller does it. He looks like Orville the duck.
Yeah.
The only thing that's
Yeah.
missing is the nappy around his legs. Now, Orville the duck,
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, put a
Like-
nappy on him and he looks 100% like all of them.
like, no, you guys probably don't know who Orville is, but I do suggest
Check him out.
you check him out and you will look at Orville the duck and you will think it's Gappa with a nappy on. Well, baby Gappa, at least baby Gappa.
Yeah. So yeah, they find this, they capture it, and they're like, well, wait, this is great. This is just what we need. Let's bring it back to Tokyo with us. And the Islanders kid is like, no, don't go. Gappa angry. And it's like, but no, Gappa's been dead. You see these big bones in the cave? That's Gappa. Gappa is dead. This baby there's no guardian left, so we can take it. But oh boy, are they wrong.
Mm-hmm. Because they just assumed that they actually said what had happened is that the mother Gappa had laid the egg and it was because of the environment of being trapped in like this cocoon state. The mother had died and the egg had remained and it had stayed in like a status state. And when the gap happened, the opening happened and it allowed the air in, it made the egg hatch. And they just assumed it was an undiscovered creature that basically Playmates magazine can now take and exploit.
Dude,
Yep.
you said Orville the duck.
Yep.
You're right.
Oh wow, okay. I definitely have to look this up.
Yes, Orville the duck with a nappy on is Gappa, the baby Gappa. Yes.
Daniel Miller's turning red.
yeah, there
Oh
it is.
god. Not to go off script, but when did awful or is it awful or awful
Orville.
over?
Orville.
When was the character first originated? When did it come out? It's curious.
Oh, it's from the 1980s, I believe. Oh, wait, it might even been.
Okay.
Orville the Duck was the famous puppet often used by ventriloquist Keith Harris from 1947 to 2015 and was named after Orville Wright, one of the Wright brothers.
I have to look this up. I'm surprised I've never heard of them.
Yeah,
It gives Chucky a run for his money.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great. Continue, Daniel.
Yeah.
Yes, continue, Daniel.
Okay. So yeah, they take the Gappa hatchling onto a boat after building a cage around it. Then it's revealed that there are actually two adult Gappas, the mother and father, hiding in water inside the cave, and they're like, "Someone's taken our baby. What the hell is going on?" And so during the night, they wreak havoc. They exit the cave and they wreak havoc on the village, looking for their offspring.
Mm. And may I say, when you get the breakout sequence with the two parents from the cave, I thought it was a really brilliantly strong scene and a brilliant, beginning when you're first introduced to the parents, because you don't actually fully see the reveal of them.
No.
You just see the big eyes, you see the slow heads coming out of the water, and then you suddenly see them, the noise of them, and their kind of growly noise that they make as they burst through the cave walls and wreak havoc on the island.
Yeah. It also helps in that there's not that much lighting in there. It's mostly just shadows.
Definitely. Yes.
But I wanted to add that the glowing eyes are really cool.
Oh, the glowing eyes.
Yeah.
Well, that's what made the cave scenes in the opening when they come out of the water. And then it's all dark and shadowy lit, and then all you can see is the glow of the eyes and the growling of the parents, who are, in shock and are in pain and are angry that the little one has disappeared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So carry on, Mr. Daniel.
Right. As this has happened, a submarine has observed this attack and well, let's go ashore and look for survivors. Then, this is from the American cut that I've seen on Tubi. It cuts to the businessman reading through the letters saying, "Oh, they found a giant bird lizard. This is ridiculous. This is obscene." Then he actually goes out in a boat to meet the characters and actually see firsthand this thing that they've brought back. And he's like, "I've seen every sort of bird lizard that there is." And he's like, really?
And they also go back to the island after the monsters have wreaked havoc, and they find the only survivor, who is Saki. And they bring him to Japan. And he's basically warning them that Gappa has awoken and Gappa is coming for the infant, and he will not stop till they get the infant back. He's basically warning them. You know, like
Yeah.
like this scene here is where he's warning them and stuff like that, and just no one's taking any notice of him.
No.
Because they figure like he's for one, he's a child, so it's like they're not going to pay attention to a child
Mhm.
giving a warning. But it's like, well, about to
Mhm.
find out what the warning was. You know?
Yes, and they have the baby Gappa in their possession, and this is where you see like the news articles about this big discovery. And he makes headlines around the world, and he's kind of trapped in this cage, back at like this giant warehouse area where he's got like devices on him, and he's kind of being experimented on.
Yeah, exactly.
Which this gets compared a lot to Gorgo, which came out a bit earlier, but I thought this made this really different to Gorgo and give it like that extra touch, because you're getting the baby Gappa being experimented on, where baby Gorgo was simply placed in a circus cage and was on
Yeah.
display.
That's right.
Yeah, at least
So
Gorgo was treated as relatively well as can be expected for the circumstances.
yeah, you basically trapped like a wild animal trapped on display like in a zoo, where this poor little thing is getting experimented on.
That's
Yep.
right.
And if I can, I just want to throw out something real quick. Even though this is almost kind of similar to Gorgo to a degree, I could say, to some degree, it's almost kind of foreshadowing, or I should say, kind of like Mothra to a degree, because
Mhm.
Mothra, where the peanuts are taken off the island to be exploited,
Mhm.
it sets off a chain reaction with Mothra going after them like a mother hen, going after something that not belonging to offlanders, and going after them and destroying anything in her wake to get them back. So I just
It's
want to put that.
it's very strange, but also quite, the fact that 3 different kaiju films have a similar feel and a similar plot, with exploitation as the main kind of is the main message that's out there. Animal cruelty, obviously animal cruelty, exploitation. They're the main messages that are in these 3.
Corporate greed.
Yes, corporate greed, also corporate greed as well as another hidden message in these films, and obviously messing with Mother Nature.
It's kind of like that song. It's kind of like that song actually says in Godzilla, where it says, "History shows again and again how nature points out the folly of men." And this is just those 3 of just showing the folly of men's greed and how it leads to bad, worse off things. So it makes sense.
One thing
Yeah.
I do like though is that the businessman, his daughter does kind of come into play to act as a conscience for him.
Definitely, which you don't really get that in Gorgo, and you don't even get that in Mothra. Because Mothra, he's a greedy arsehole. And then in Gorgo, the leader, the owner of Dorcas Circus is just wanting to make money. There's no middleman that tries to talk them out of it, or if they do, they don't get through to them. They end up scrapping, or they end up trying to kill them, or something like that. Where in this, the daughter is trying to be like the conduit to his conscience.
Yeah.
That's right.
So this is where the fun begins, because if you thought it got good when where Gappa breaks out of the cave was great, they now suddenly appear in Sagami Bay. Sagami Bay. And it's a nighttime scene where you see the water glow and you see stuff, and they just head into the city, and it's just destruction.
Yeah.
And it's where we finally get basically the overall final reveal of the Gappa parents, which look fantastic. And you know, these scenes were really well done with the destruction
Oh,
Yeah.
very.
of the city, and
I mean,
it's
you could
just
tell it's a cheaper budget than what Toho usually brings out when they produce effects, but they use what they had to give out us a good action sequences. You know, it was going up against the army, you know, the military, and then it's like say total destruction of buildings. Like, hey, this is typical kaiju action. That's what we want. That's what we want to see.
so
Yeah.
it delivered like a family plot with amazing kaiju action. Like, I love Gorgo. British kaiju film, amazing. It was great to have a kaiju film based in the UK, but the majority of the action happens basically the last quarter of the film, where Gorgo's mother turns up and she wreaks havoc in London and rips everything apart. But then, if you notice with that, soon as she gets Gorgo the baby, she stops the destruction, heads back into the water. The great thing about Gappa, on their search for Gappa, it's just a bloodbath. It's just pure destruction, and the military are just can't deal with what is happening in front of their eyes, which I thought was brilliantly done.
And
And
also,
you know,
like
go
Gorgo,
ahead.
it didn't focus on the destruction as much. You more had the angles when you were with the crowd or whoever were with this to kind of put you with the Gappas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's another thing. It focused more on the destruction and the military not being able to deal with the threat. And it's a much larger threat than Gorgo itself because there's two parents, not just the one. And so I think the creators, because this came out in 1967, Gorgo came out in 1960?
Actually, but I could be wrong.
So
that was-
1961 was it?
I think it was 1961.
Yeah.
And obviously, even though the plots are very similar, this, I think, where Gappa was more focused on the baby and the mother and just basically the rescue mission, this tries to make it more of an action movie on top of a rescue movie with the kaiju, which I think it works. This is probably its strength over Gogo, the action sequences.
Yeah.
Gorgo
No,
was 61.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah, the
1961,
action-
yes.
Yeah, the action in Gappa, like you said, when they touched ground on Sagami Bay, and then headed towards Tokyo, and Sagami Bay is in Tokyo, but it's the outskirts of Tokyo. So, and then once they started showing like their sheer size and their power, and they got their own little heat beams, and I'm glad they didn't use the heat beams too much because they didn't want to, again, be considered like Godzilla, even though they are considered Godzilla clones. They were. It was well shot. The military special effects were really good. The miniatures were surprisingly good.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like this one, like Gorgo's great. This one's also great. Just it's like, but I do like that there was two, and then they opened up the plot a little bit more. Like, see, look
Like,
at look even. Go ahead.
Like, I love this particular scene where when it came out of the initial sea, it had a squid in its mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
Yeah,
I just
so-
thought, well, that was just epic, because I just thought, well, I cannot remember the last time I seen that in a kaiju film where it was basically eaten. And there was like, right, I've had enough for me tea. Let's go and kick some ass and create some hell.
She wanted some calamari. It was the female. She wanted some calamari, bro. That's all she wanted, some calamari.
And it was another nice touch that the heads of both of them were a little different, and the male had a more pronounced crest, which if you look at like certain breeds of parrots, the male will have a fancier crest on the head than the female.
I definitely think with it being a lizard and bird hybrid, I definitely see like a parrot look in the head is the bird head.
Yeah.
And
Would you say more parrot or more that of a traditional pterosaur?
Definitely. And
That's
this is one of my favorite shots, which is near the end, which I'll show in a minute. So as the plot progresses, there's just they try different ways to defeat the Gappa parents. And in the end, Hiroshi, Aitoko, Saki, and expedition scientist Professor Tanuka tried to persuade the headstrong Mr. Funazu to basically release the baby, and he's not having it. He's like, I'm not releasing the baby. It's I'm gonna make millions or whatever. It's a big part of the everything that's happening with the magazine. It's gonna be my biggest success. But then in the end, he gets talked into and he finally decides, I will release the baby. And is it the airport he releases the baby? Or the area?
actually, no. They just actually. Let me just correct you on that, my brother Kevin.
Mhm.
He doesn't convince them. Even his daughter or granddaughter says, let it go, and then she's no, whatever, and then even the daughter like renounces him and says, well, I don't like you anymore, whatever, and I don't like you anymore. So the rest of the crew, like Hiroshi, Itoko, Saki, all of them say no. They just took it. They didn't like whatever. They just explained, no, man, we're gonna take it from you. You're out of your mind. So we're just gonna take it from you. So that's what they did. I mean, and I'm meaning to correct you on that, but
No. I'd rather be corrected. Like I say, it's been a long time since I've seen it, and I don't know if there's a different cut where he did finally give to the daughter and released it. But I'm just reading as well what it says here on Wikipedia. So Wikipedia is actually wrong then, if that's what happened. So this is what Wikipedia said. So it says the Gappa parents ravage cities looking for their offspring and prove impervious to the military weapons. Hiroshi Aitoko Saki, an expedition scientist professor, Tanoka tried to persuade the headstrong Mr. Funazu to let the baby go and return to the parents. Mr. Funazu finally lets Gappa go to the parents. So that's what Wikipedia has on it. So
That's not the cut I saw, because he was still headstrong, and like say the other people say, you know what, screw him, we're gonna release the baby, get him out here, because he was like say he was still adamant about keeping the baby and try to exploit him.
Because don't forget, there's two cuts of the movie with two different titles. So you've obviously got Gappa the Tiberian monster, then it's Gappa from the prehistoric planet, which I don't know if that the American title.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the one that I have. That's the one that I have, and I think in the special edition 13 movie one I have, I think it might have been a different one.
So maybe because it's got two different titles, maybe different edits, maybe Wikipedia's got one of the edits, one of the cuts on there. So
because as we said earlier, the Monsters from Another Planet edit, there are so many scenes that are cut. It's like there's bits missing from there. It's like when they get to the island, it's like, all right, let's go ashore. Almost immediately, they're in a speedboat going to the island. They don't actually show footage of them getting into the boat, preparing the boat. It's just them in the boat. Like,
So like you say, that if there is different cuts and bits cut out here and there, that maybe the version I watched and the version that and the information I've read is a different version that you guys may not have seen. But this is what Wikipedia seen, so it's either right or wrong, but all right. But the next scene, like you say, either way, whether it gets released or it gets rescued and set free, he finally meets his parents,
and he gets a lot bigger.
He literally goes within minutes of being released.
Which they kind of like time skipped a little bit. They did do a bit of a time skip when they brought him, because he was growing at an accelerated rate and stuff like that. So And that was another thing. Like that's how you could say, like you guys mentioned, that he was cut. That there were so many cuts that there was a time skip or something, because he went from being about a human size to being damn near 15 feet tall and 20 feet
Yeah.
tall. So
I would probably agree with that. I believe if there's been so much edits in different versions of the film, they might have skipped part or just completely cut bits and left it on the editing floor.
And of course, there's also the possibility that even in the original cut, the film didn't have a very good editor.
Very true, very true. But going back to Ross, this is my favourite scene. This is my favourite scene where the when it dives into the water.
Yeah, and they call it a tsunami almost, a tidal wave, whatever.
I absolutely love that scene in the film. And then obviously you've got the scene at the end where they all fly off together. And they go back to the island in peace and harmony, which ends the film Gorgo. Sorry, I fucking keep saying Gorgo, Gappa. But with that said, we'll go around and we'll give our overall thought of the movie. So we'll start with Sci-Fi Sentry. Your overall thought of what you think of the plot, the movie itself, and do you enjoy it?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like all of us who are true kaiju fans, I enjoyed it for what it was. It's underrated. It's an underrated kaiju film because we've seen a lot worse, and this is not the worst kaiju film made, but it's not the best. But to me, it's in between, and I think it should get more recognition. It's underrated. It had a lot of, like everybody mentions, especially Anthony, saying that they cut so many pieces out, and who knows, they just said, okay, you know what, let's cut it to pieces and let's just see what works. And but no, yeah, it was a great film, man. I love the designs, I love the glowing eyes. The plot was okay. I did like the fact that they try to use something to try to bug them, to get them, try to bother them in the ocean with high pitched noises and get them out. And they always have a plan. But I enjoyed it, man. When I rewatched it, even though it was poor quality, I liked it. It's a kaiju film. I like the roars. I like that they gave them a little bit more personality, their parents, and yeah, it was a great. To me, it's a great film, man. I'm a huge kaiju fan. We're all kaiju fans, so I think it's a great film. I think it's a great film for what it is. What it is.
Yes. Anthony Jordan.
I really enjoyed it, even though, like I said, I'm not overly sure what to make of it, but I would still recommend it. It's similar to kaiju movies we've seen before, but just because it's original doesn't mean it can't be fun. It's one I'd actually like to see remade and actually see a budget for the Gappas, because while I like the design, I see the potential for a better design with a bigger budget. I watched it once last week and took a break from Space Marine 2 yesterday to watch it a second time for the review, because it is those, like, if you've seen the similar story a couple times before, you do kind of have that, you watch it, then that almost, what did I just watch? Because it feels so familiar, and it can be easy to tune out while you're watching it because, okay, this is like this movie, and I feel like I've seen this before, but I wouldn't call it a bad movie, and I definitely recommend it, even if you have to suffer through that horrible version on Tubi that looked like was a rip from a deteriorating VHS.
Yeah. I'm sure the quality of the VHS I had when I was younger was even better than the quality that was on Tubi. So I started watching the Tubi. Yeah.
This one's a little better. This one.
Put it this way, though, we're talking about how bad this is. If anyone watching this has seen Alien versus Predator Requiem, it makes the nighttime scenes look in that movie like they were shot in the brightest light possible.
Man, hey, going back to the professor, what he would say, it was too dark. Come on. It's bollocks, man. It's bollocks.
bollocks.
What a load of bollocks. How can you see in this dark? It's pitch black. You can't see
rubbish.
shit.
It's rubbish. It's not even rubbish.
Mhm.
Well, you can't see the rubbish.
Well, I would recommend.
It's
I would
rubbish.
recommend if you're gonna watch it on Tubi, watch the dubbed version because the dub. No, sorry, watch the subtitle version on there. It's much brighter. Mr. Walter Ross, you're next.
Okay. My whole take on it is I'm kind of like with Anthony on that one. I was thinking about that earlier. It would be a wild ride if they were to do an update version of Gappa, because I wouldn't mind seeing that. I mean that because I'm not a big fan of remakes, but if you do it well with the technology you have, I think it would be really well made. Hey, if you do, because I mean, similar story, but a little bit updated of everything. But the story, like Sci-Fi say, it's not a bad film. In fact, I feel like this is something that's so it's not so under the radar now, like back then. I feel more kaiju fans should be invested with this because this film is something. It's a kaiju treat. And here's the thing about this film that I've never seen kaiju's do before in any film before this or after. We actually see kaijus express emotion. When the Gappas get their baby back, they cry. Okay, now I'm gonna tell you right now, rewatching that, dude, I don't know what it was, but I almost started. No, in fact, I did start to cry watching that. I was like, why am I crying over kaiju's crying? Let's be honest. When you see parents who love their offspring that much, go through all that to get them back, it's like, yeah, and then they show emotion like that, dude. Come on, that's what any loving parent can express. So
I do think we do see kaiju show emotion, but not to that level, not often. Like even in Son of Godzilla, when near the end of the film, when baby Godzilla, Minya, is in the snow, and the snow's falling, and of course Godzilla finally caves and goes, right, I'm coming to, keep you warm, son. Right. And you've got the end shot pan out, and they're kind of cuddling together. It's very rare it happens, but when it does happen, it's kind of shocking. But it also gives the kaiju more depth, and realize, that these are creatures. These have emotions. They do, they are literally creatures that do have emotions and can express them.
I think
and intelligence.
The two closest examples to this would be in Rebirth of Mothra 1, when the parent Mothra is dying and you get the scene with the baby. And then in Godzilla versus Destroya, after Destroya presumably killed Godzilla Jr. in his reaction when he goes up to the
body. Yeah, he has another.
Don't remind me of Rebirth of Mothra, bro. Don't remind me about that one. That was kind of brutal, man.
And he has another time that a kaiju showed a real emotion in Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, when you had the who's got the big corporation, but he used to be a soldier, and you give the salute to the Godzilla, and then it goes to the future when he owns a big corporation and he's at the window and he's doing the salute. You look at the look of Godzilla's face and he recognizes him.
That scene is so misunderstood.
I think it is.
And you see the look in Godzilla's eyes, and he's like thinking, what do I? And then you don't know what happens. He wipes him out.
It's almost like Godzilla's asking for permission to do it.
So it does show you do have shocking moments where the kaiju can truly surprise you with emotion, which is why it's true kaiju fans will love these films. Daniel Miller, your thoughts on this film?
My thoughts, being able to see it from beginning to end, I can see that there is a bit left to be desired, but at its core, there is something really good about Gappa in its storyline. It takes the it takes your standard kaiju movie formula, but ties in a family aspect from a kaiju perspective, and also adds in elements of adventure. Like they're on a journey to an island, they reach the island, and there's something off about it, something that they don't quite know what it is until they get to the monument. Now, in terms of the special effects, the miniature scenes and the suit action sequences with the kaiju attacking the cities, they're very well done.
Oh, brilliantly done.
Yeah, especially on the island where it really relies on darkness and shadows and dim lighting to really keep the monsters hidden before the grand reveal when they reach the mainland.
Yeah,
In
I
terms of
actually thought
design,
that the island scenes was more brutal than the actual battle scenes in the cities, because
Oh,
it
yeah.
was like facing off against the unknown at the time before you got the reveal of what they look like.
Yeah.
You know,
Kevin, can I just add this? I'll get to Anthony real quick. I was just gonna say this. I even the suits, the detail on the face, the glowing eyes, even the teeth, the mouth on the inside, it's like you can't just tell like it was something like a Yongri where you could tell it was kind of like done lazily, like they did a lazy job. Even the designs of Gappa, all of them, they look like they look good. You know, they look really good for a low budget, Godzilla esque kaiju film, and the miniatures exploding looked well. And I was gonna, I wanted to add to what Daniel said. It's great. Like the miniatures were, I was like, when I resaw it, I was like, wow, man, they did a great job on all the aspects of a kaiju film aside from the plot of the human story, the miniatures, the design of the kaiju's, the storyline, the fact they added a family of kaiju. That was great, man. That was great. Sorry about that. Go ahead, Anthony. I think Anthony was gonna say something.
No.
Daniel said something like clicked, and I thought of the perfect analogy for the film. It's a delivery pizza that gets to the house not quite as hot as you would like it. It's still good, it's still got its warmth, but it's just not as good as if the delivery man had been maybe 5 minutes faster.
Yeah.
Well said. Daniel, continue if
Right.
you've.
Yeah. Now, considering that this is the American version, I'm curious to know what the original Japanese cut is like, whether it's a more complete film where it's not as cut down or even as cropped, because you can tell that there's a lot of cropping and panning and scanning within certain parts of the film. And that's just made me wonder, from a technical standpoint, what happened to the original negative of the American transfer? What happened to the elements, and how did they get so degraded over time with each subsequent re-release of it?
That's very true.
Well,
They could have been destroyed, or they could have been forgotten about. They're probably locked away in some safe in Japan.
Okay, here's one. I'm looking at the runtimes on Tubi. The subbed version is an hour and 25 minutes. The dubbed version is an hour and 28 minutes.
So 90 minutes. Is that what it is? This one, this one is 90 minutes. Yeah.
Well, I watched the subtitle one just because it was better quality.
Yeah.
It's weird that the subtitled version is, if it's like just slightly shorter, how much more disjointed does it have to feel?
Well, this is what happens. You got to remember, this is what happens when not too well-known films, they get this kind of treatment. I mean, especially when it's coming from overseas. It's like, okay, it was kind of big over there, but bringing it over to the Western world, they butcher up a lot of films that are probably more critical. But I guess at the time, it's like, oh man, what happened to like Daniel said, what happened to the original? So maybe some later down the line, we'll actually see a better, perfect version of what it was originally brought as when it was released in '67.
The perfect example of a butchered film, which me and Daniel Miller did a review of, is Varan.
Yeah.
That was probably one of the most butchered films I've ever seen. And
Yeah.
that's why I think Varan never gets the appreciation he deserves. Because
Especially the American cut, that is a chore to sit through. That should not be a movie, whether subbed, dubbed, or anything. It should never be a chore.
That
sit
American cut is such a oh my god. Sorry.
I have the one that I have is actually a Japanese version.
Mhm.
Mm.
So Daniel, were you finished with your thoughts on the movie?
Yeah, I'll just round this off by saying that Gappa, while it is flawed and it is in some way intended to be not so much. I mean, it feels like a mixture of everything. A knockoff of Godzilla for starters, a
Mhm.
parody or a comedy of the whole kaiju genre, while
Mhm.
also trying to just be an entertaining film all wrapped into one.
Yes.
It's clear that there were a lot of budget constraints involved, but with
Mhm.
what they had in terms of those resources, they did some pretty good sequences with regards to the miniature effects of the kaiju suits.
Yes. Well, I'll give my thoughts. I grew. It has sentimental value to me because I physically owned this at one point when I was younger, and I got it from my grandfather. So immediately gets props for that. For me, it's always mirrored and compared to Gorgo. For me, Gorgo's a fun mother finding a child, fun, really local in the UK kaiju movie that has its good points. And I love the suitmation, I love the miniatures in Gorgo. And it is a fine film on its own, but this for me has all the thing Gorgo has, but the one thing that this has it on its, that's an advantage is it's not just based like where Gorgo is in one place near Ireland and in the UK in London. This goes on an adventure. And it's the same kind of story and concept, but it's not just a rescue mission. It's an action adventure mission, which I think gives it that little bit more of an edge over Gorgo. And I thoroughly enjoyed the action. I thoroughly enjoyed the suitmation. I loved the design of the creatures. I thought the plot was fantastic. It's just a shame, like everything else, these kaiju film outside of Godzilla and Gamera don't get the credit that they deserve because they all deliver and give something to the kaiju genre, and they're just never appreciated on the level as Godzilla and Gamera or even Ultraman. And I believe this deserves a little bit more respect because I know it's not really thought of in the same light as other movies, but I believe it deserves to have its time in the sun. And I would welcome a remake, and I would even welcome a remake of Gorgo. And we may potentially get some more Gappa in the future, because I do know that the people over at Titanic Creations are attempting to get the license for Gappa. And the plan is to eventually do an articulated Gappa film. Articulated Gappa figure, which, they've got Yongari, they've got Pulpazari. They're also working, I believe, they're working on trying to get the Conga license. So it'll be interesting to see where they go with that. So Gappa might get his day in the sun eventually.
Can they go for the Reptilicus license, please?
Time will tell. Once there's me cat gone crazy. But yes. So this has been a lot of fun. So in the group, we'll start with Daniel Miller and make our way around. What would you rate Gappa? We'll start with Daniel Miller.
Right. Out of 1 to 5, I'd give this movie a 3. It has elements of a great movie in there. There's elements of a great movie in there. Appreciative special effects, but it does suffer in terms of the human characters and also the greater story of the plot. But the morals or the lessons within the film, they're there, they're present, they're easy to understand. But yeah, it's a decent enough film. You basically get what you pay for, an enjoyable monster movie.
Mhm. Anthony Jordan.
Well, Daniel just pretty much said what I was gonna say, so I'll just say I agree with him word for word.
And what would you rate it out of, say, 10?
Same, just like he said, if it was on a 1 to 5, I'd give it a 3.
Walter Ross.
Well, instead of doing the number of scale, I'm going to do the rating scale from A to F. I give it a good solid C plus. Because honestly, when this film was around, of course, it got its butchering, it got its hacking, it got tossed around. It didn't get the justice that should until now. And looking at it, and again, I realized there's more potential. Like Daniel was saying, there's more potential to this film than just what's brought to the table. So, and like I say, when I rewatched it, seeing the characterization of the Gappas, showing how they feel for their dude, that sold it for me. Realizing like, no, this is stronger element than just them just blowing up and destroying everything. So that is what deserves a C plus.
Sci-fi.
I'll give it just for the effort that they put in, especially during the Showa Kaiju boom, where everyone and their mother was trying to put out some kind of kaiju movies and characters and stuff. So I give it, and I'll go like from the professor. I'll go from a 1 to 5 rating. I'll give it a 3.5 just for the fact that they tried, that they gave it an effort, for the story, coming out, making a movie during the huge kaiju boom and everything like that. So yeah, I had to give it that. It's a 3.5 great film. I loved it. Um, Hardcore kaiju fans will love it, and that's what I think about it. So
As for myself, I'm going to stick to what I normally do on my channel, which is 1 to 10, and I'm going to give it a solid 6 out of 10, which I think's fair. It's right near the middle for all the points you've pointed out. If I was going to grade it on Walter's scale, A to F, I would probably give this a C plus, because I think that's a fair rating. But as always, this has been an amazing, another great kaiju conversation, another great kaiju chat. But this will be the last Kaiju Classic review till November, because October on the channel is all about horror, and it's Taste the Blood month. All about vampires, all about my trip to Romania and beyond. But when we do return in November for the next Classic Kaiju review, I'm going to do one that is a film I've only seen once, and it's because I found it available free somewhere. And I thought, ooh, this is going to be an interesting one, and it's a much older film from the 1950s. We are going to be looking at this one.
Good movie.
Yes.
Oh, wow, I definitely have to. Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen that one.
The film that gave us Clint Eastwood.
You're
Yes.
right.
Yes, it is Clint Eastwood's first on-screen appearance as a army pilot.
Yeah.
Before
At first, you couldn't tell it was him because he's literally wearing the breather inside the cockpit. But if you look closely enough, it's the eyes that are a giveaway.
Yes, it's the eyebrows and the eyes, yes.
But
But before we go,
killing tarantulas.
yes. What was that, Anthony?
I said before he was shooting up perps, he was killing giant tarantulas.
Yes, it sure was.
Make my day.
So, as always, it's been an amazing time, but I'm going to look at all of you, my guests, and we'll start with Daniel Miller. You have coming up this month, you've got your horror stories coming to your channel.
Absolutely.
I will look forward to that. Mr. Anthony Jordan, what's coming to your channel?
Well, gearing up for Montober, and I just finished Space Marine 2, and recorded a review of it. So if I can pull myself away from still playing the game some more, I got a review I need to edit together for it. Long story short, absolute blast. If you have the means to play this game, do so. You will leave a trail of gore behind you as you play.
Mr. Walter Ross, what's coming to your channel?
I've got nothing special on the horizon, but like I say, like anything, something will definitely pop up. And till then, all I can say is just stay tuned till the kaiju love comes up into play. That's all I'll say.
Mr. Sci-Fi Sentry, what is coming to your channel?
Well, you know that I gotta accommodate my UK Newcastle brothers, so we're gonna run the Chronicles of Riddick Pitch Black on the 27th. And that one, I've already got everything prepped for it. I already got the thumbnail. I already got the intro videos. That's one of my favorite movies, also. So that's why I had to get Kevin Lambert on there, because I have not had Kevin Lambert on for the last 3. And don't worry, Anthony, I'll get you on. I'll get you on the Chronicles of Riddick. In the second one, I will definitely get you on that one, and gotta get Ami Viewer on that one, Anubis, Walter, D Film Fanatic also wants to get in on that one, so I'm gonna try to get him on that.
Yeah,
So
unfortunately, when you work full time and your shifts are all over the place, sometimes it's hard to, schedule these kind of things. But we're trying to make it work, my brother, and we'll get there. We'll get there.
yeah, so that's it. That's all I got, man.
As for the entertainment headquarters, earlier today I launched my Beetlejuice review, so check that out on the channel. Like I say, coming up on the channel next week, we have the Into the Darkness Warlock franchise review, where that's going to be a lot of fun, but also have the retro classic movie show Sleepy Hollow review coming up next week. And beyond that, all of October is going to be Taste the Blood Vampire Month on the channel. And the highlight for me is when I return from a very much needed vacation to Romania, where I get to visit Bran Castle, which is Vlad the Impaler's home castle and the inspiration for Bram Stoker, who created the book Dracula. I'll be bringing it all on the channel with a personal blog. But that's what October's coming to the entertainment headquarters. But until then, for me and my amazing guests, please subscribe, like, and share to all of these guys' channels. They're all amazing people, as well as amazing content creators. Love and appreciate them all. Always love having them on the channel. And if you've liked this video, please like, share, and subscribe to the entertainment headquarters. But like Mr. Sexual Chocolate, Mr. Walter Ross, keep the kaiju love alive.